Hello and welcome to ClearTalk. So today we are finally going to talk about the events over there. All right. We are going to talk about Israel's conflict on Gaza, war on Gaza. In this particular video, we are going to be exploring the idea of their genocide on Gaza, and whether or not, the question of are they committing a genocide? And we're going to explore what a genocide is, and I'm going to give my opinion on whether I think they are, and just what I think in general of the whole situation. All right, so first off, I think the first thing we need to do is actually define what a genocide is. So if we going according to the United Nations Genocide Convention in 1948, it was defined as any of five acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a nation, ethnical, racial, or religious group. All right, and these five acts are: one, killing members of the group; two, causing them serious bodily or mental harm; three, imposing living conditions intended to destroy the group; four, preventing births; and five, forcibly transferring children out of the group. All right, so those five acts committed with intent, any of those five acts, not doesn't have to be all five, any of those five acts committed to with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a nation, ethnical, racial, or religious group. Okay. Um, so that is your category. That's your how they analyze any kind of conflict across the world at any time and decide whether or not a group is committing a genocide on another group. Um, so what we're going to do here uh, is talk a little bit about what that those differences mean. Okay, so then the biggest thing a lot of times to even like define that they are actually committing a genocide is the intent part. That's the most important. Do they, or whatever acts they are committing against another, or one group is committing against another group, is it with intent? Are they intentionally hurting or destroying the group, or is it, by accident? Um, that's the biggest thing, is actually proving that they intended on destroying this group. Um, and then the next part is in whole, which is often debated and questioned, is the in whole or in part. In whole, obviously, being committing and destroying the whole group, and in part, meaning destroying part of the group, obviously. But oftentimes it's like, the people don't particularly like the in part section, because they question, does that mean you can just kill one or two people and that be the case? It can be, you could be accused of it, and that obviously, or no, that is not the case. Okay, that has been brought up previously in conflicts and discussions or trials or whatever about a particular group committing genocide, and the in part is meaning a significant amount, a substantial amount of the group. All right, a large enough amount of the group that, if destroyed, it will create harm to the entirety of the group. Um, and Because the point and the reason why that was a part of that is that the whole point of the Genocide Convention and this resolution being passed was to prevent an entire group being destroyed. If it shouldn't take an entire group being destroyed before you go, oh, you know what? I guess it was a genocide. They're all dead now. So the point is to identify it before it actually gets to the in whole part. Um, so that's the reason why that in part is there, so that actions can be quickly made if it's being identified as that. So our five parts again: killing members of the group. So what we're that's pretty simple, right? The intent of killing members of the group. Due to nationality, ethnical, racial, or religious group reasons. All right. So if you identified that you know, they were killing people with intent to destroy them, then that is one part. Causing them serious bodily or mental harm. This is acts committed on the group of people that doesn't necessarily kill them, but it does commit serious bodily harm, abuse, physically, and also mentally. Any kind of harm that creates some type of mental abuse, um, whether immediate or um, down the line, for the rest of their life. So most of this, the big like hitters on this would be physical or sexual abuse, but it's really kind of any kind of serious bodily or mental harm that is put on a group of people by the actions being taken, and of course intending those actions intending to cause that. Third, the opposing living conditions intended to destroy the group. These are, all your conditions, as in necessities for the group, food being the big one. If you are imposing conditions where the group cannot, get adequate food, water, or conditions of allowing them to live, like health care, um, uh, and access to health care, to medicines, to uh, anything like that that has to do with them actually, you know, being able to live. If you're imposing any kind of conditions like that, that eventually will destroy the group through hunger, through, whatever, sickness, malnutrition, or even to death or whatever. Anything that conditions that um, committed an intent. And then preventing births, whether that is, that's with either creating like abortions or somehow preventing, a woman from um having her child or whatever the case, something like that. And then forcibly transferring groups, children out of the group, meaning forcibly separating children from the parents, to, for whatever reason. Sometimes it's even in history, there's been times where they've even separated them by boys and girls, and for different reasons, boys to actually use militarily, or girls for other reasons and things. I mean, any kind of forcible children from their parents, from the group, for whatever reasons, and that is the intent of that to destroy the group. That is considered the last fifth and act that could consider a group being to committing genocide on a group. Um, so those are the reasons. That is the definition of genocide. So now, if we are looking at Israel and what has happened since October 7th, um, and could we deduce from those actions, how do or are they, can we actually apply that and, consider that genocide? um Obviously, the you had South Africa brought up the charges on Israel first, to the UN, and with substantial amounts of evidence, um, and uh, the UN, after looking over it, we know that they have decided that there is the possibility of it. And then there's been other things since then. Um, you've recently, a couple weeks ago, had the ICJ, um, the ICC, uh, actually present paperwork for warrants for two of Israel's leaders, Netanyahu and I can't remember the other guy, and then three Hamas leaders. Um, so we, there's been already things happening that, from the UN's perspective, um, and hearings and stuff going on, looking over evidence of the situations going on, that they have decided certain, to at least to some extent, that is possible. And then, of course, the warrants, or filing for warrants, just like for someone, warrant here, you have to file for a warrant. It goes before a judge grants the warrant, and blah blah. Same thing with that. It's got to be going upon a judge panel, I think, of 3 to 5 judges, something like that. And they look over the evidence, look over the warrant, and either grant or not grant. If they grant, then that doesn't really mean a whole lot outside of the fact that if they uh, if those individuals go anywhere, and uh, it kind of forces other nations, or at least nations that are part and signed on to the ICC, um, to it kind of forces them to have to force their hand in arresting them, um, the individual, if they come into their country anywhere. So that's pretty much what that is about. So Israel itself is not signed on to it, so they don't have to hold themselves to it, just like the U.S. is not. And we can have a discussion about whether that I agree with that, which I don't. I don't think anybody should feel like they have the ability to just ignore, um, uh, or take accountability for, uh, or not have to take accountability for committing war crimes, or um, inciting or even committing a genocide. Um, so yeah, I don't agree with that. But anyway, so as long as they stayed in their country, there's nothing ever could ever be done. It's basically, if they go to another country that is not a part of it, then they don't have restrictions for it. So they could potentially, you know go to a few countries that are not signed on. But anyway, um, and as far as the ICJ is considered on the whole genocide report and stuff, they also don't have any type of task force to um, implement anything. They just they can make suggestions. It can create um, international pressure. On the international stage from all of the countries. There can be, which can then turn into economical pressure and things like that, to to try to create them, put pressure on them to stop, or um change their policy toward the conflict or whatever. But there's no actual, like, force that can do anything. Just like the ICC doesn't really have a force that can do anything. It's just kind of left up to the individual countries and their forces themselves. But anyway, um, so if we're looking at what they have done, I mean, um, I have see here. They're on even on that report. So what we're what they what the uh, South Africa um, presented was some of the evidence they presented was a lot of the stuff was like remarks and stuff that were given from officials and things like that. We have that quotes and things from like uh, let's see here. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. My bad. Okay, here we go. So we have your comments from like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he original back early on in the conflict, citing from the Bible, you must remember what Amalek has done to you, that kind of stuff. Um, and if you don't know about that, that's in the Bible. The Amaleks were basically persecutors on the biblical Israelites, and the Israelites they were commanded, uh, I believe, by God to basically go in and destroy them, uh, killing everybody, like destroy, all men, women, children, flock, everything, like, because of, the persecutions that was being done on them, they were commanded to go and destroy them. Um, that was sort of inciting the idea of Israel that Hamas was like, or that Hamas was like the Amaleks, and that Israel needed to destroy them, basically. Um, and so that was kind of an intent to commit a genocide, to destroy the Palestinians, the Hamas, or whatever. Um, and then you have the defense minister Yoav Gallant, talking about fighting human animals, things like that. So you have all these different um, uh, a deputy Knesset speaker, which is um, uh, uh, part of the Likud party and stuff. He was talking about erasing the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth, basically, swiping them clean. You've had other ones talking about dropping nukes on them and everything. I mean, like, just completely destroying it. Journalists and stuff from Israel and stuff like that, talking about um, destroying the whole area and everything. There's been soldiers caught on video, Israeli soldiers. They have like this TikTok and other social media outlets where they have been just arrogantly putting up videos all over the place of their acts and stuff since October 7th on Palestinian people and stuff like that. Um, eh, and it's just been documented over and over again. Um, Abuse and from physical to sexual to um, uh, just destroying homes and everything else. Um, of course, we have just the acts themselves that Israel has done throughout um, uh, throughout the whole conflict, uh, destroying everything. Just destroying homes, destroying hospitals, uh, uh, mosques, churches, UN buildings, medical facilities, um, food facilities. Just completely leveling Gaza, starting in the north and then working their way little by little down south, pushing people out, forcibly having them leave. and relocate, which all of which is considered war crimes in itself. Not to mention a degree of ethnic cleansing, because they're constantly talking. There's been reference to, you know, having them leave the area, going to other countries and whatnot. Other countries taking them in, and it's throwing them out. All kinds of different things throughout this 7 months that they've been talking about it. So, or it's been going on. Uh, and so, uh, not to mention the amounts of um, uh, medical people that have been killed, UN members that have been killed, journalists that have been killed. The numbers are just staggering. They're more than in any modern conflict in history. Um, and on top of the fact that we have the 35, 36,000 Palestinians now dead. Um, and Out of the 2.3 million that live in Gaza. So this is when you look at all this devastation going on, the constant calls for ceasefire and them just basically ignoring it, and uh, the idea was them for them the a lot of even your people in Israel are going against it. You have all kinds of protest and things going on in Israel over it. Most of the people in Israel just want the um, hostages back. That's their main goal. And according to Netanyahu and the Israel government, that was supposed to be their main goal at first, alongside of eliminating Hamas, which is something that's basically impossible to do. Um, but uh, but it's pretty much just become about supposedly defeating Hamas. But it's like, if your goal is to defeat Hamas, then why are you not, doing strategic? That's been the whole argument from people like me and um uh, journalists or commentators or stuff like that, on more on the left, has been, why are you not being more strategic about this? Um, Instead of just dropping bombs, just everywhere and just completely destroying the area. Um, I mean, they have been dropping 2,000-pound bombs since October 7th or October 8th, um, on the area. And I mean, almost nonstop. Um, and That's the one thing to understand, is that Gaza is a very small area. It's only about 140 square feet. Um, Sorry, square miles. 140 square miles, square feet. Yeah, it's really little. 140 square miles, which in comparison, is like pretty much about the size of Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles. Um, but where Los Angeles only has, I think, roughly around 600,000 people, there's 2.3 million people in this area. For those of you, I live in Mississippi. For those of you in Mississippi, that 140 square feet is roughly about the size of the city of Jackson and like Pearl together. Okay, city of Jackson is about 115 square miles. Pearl is about 22 square miles, something like that. So it's like putting those two together, or like Jackson and Madison City, um, having those two together. So, think about that. Think about 200,000-pound bombs being dropped on the city of Jackson, city of Pearl, or city of Madison, or whatever, and completely leveling the place. Buildings destroyed, houses destroyed, hospitals destroyed, uh, medical places, food places. I mean, there's nowhere to eat. You know, your water complexes and stuff. The uh, refinements and stuff destroyed. I mean, there's and just people nowhere to go, um, and everything else. I mean, it's just it. Just think about that for a second, you know. And it's been going on for 7 months. Um, I mean, this just when you really think about it like that, I would hope that it would kind of internalize a little bit, and you would kind of get the impact that that would be like. Um, Even though that might be hard to try to visualize, but I mean, if there's video, there's photos, there's all kinds of stuff out there to see what's happening. Um, and Of course, Israel has constantly argued that they are doing none of this. All of this is on accident. They're not doing it on purpose. They're the most moral um, military and government in the world. They drop leaflets. They send out text messages to leave this place and leave that place and to get people out before they bomb them. Um, the problem is people have nowhere to go. Um, and not only that, it has been proven that they have not done that. They've done it a few times, maybe in the very beginning of the conflict, um, and a couple of times throughout before like major things were going to be seen, you know, or known, like uh, moves that everybody knew they were about to make. A lot of people, or moves where they were being told to not make them or to hold off making them, and then they were going to make them anyway. Um, they've done that, but the problem is like I said, there's nowhere for them to go. Not everybody can move. It's just like you're throwing out these things for the assumption that, you know, oh, okay, yeah, everybody can just go. You know, there's nothing that can hold them back. You know, that everybody's just free to roam and free to go where they can go at any point, at any time. It didn't matter. Um, you know, just, you know, age doesn't matter, mobility doesn't matter. Um, Taking belongings with them doesn't matter. It's just not reasonable. It's not logical. It's not something that it doesn't make you moral that you do this. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. So things like that, uh, they're constantly saying that they don't do, but yet every time you turn around, they're having to, you know, apologize for this or apologize for that, or oops, that was a mistake. Oops, we're sorry. We didn't mean for that to happen, but you know, it's war. Um, and it's like, at what point? It's like they think that we're just completely oblivious, or that we're just going to believe everything that they say. Um, and it's just it really racks my brain that um, that at this date they still think that they can just say something and it'll be believed, when they've been caught lying over and over and over and over again. Um, and you know, innocent people being targeted and hit and killed over and over and over and over again, and it being proven. They would claim that, you know, there's one Hamas person in this building or whatever, or two Hamas people, and we bombed it and it killed 100 or it killed 200 or, you know, whatever. Like, you know, well, at least we got one guy. You know, it's like that's not how that works. That's not how you're supposed to conduct war, or it's not how you're supposed to conduct an operation against a group that you claim that you're after. Um, because Hamas is not all of Gaza. Hamas is not all of the Palestinians. Out of 2.3 million, Hamas originally, as of October 7th, it was considered to roughly be somewhere between 30 and 40,000 members in Hamas in Gaza out of the 2.3 million. Okay, that's a very relatively small amount. Um, so it's, it's not everybody. Now, of course, at this point, and what argument that a lot of people on the left and like me and stuff like that have been trying to make is that the for one, violence does not create peace. Okay, you're not going to bomb people into submittance and into just being peaceful and what or whatever. Um, all you're going to do is create more of what you're trying to destroy. And we have had recent reports, proving and showing how Hamas has continuously over these 7 months been able to recruit more and more people, thousands of people, new members, because of this, because of people see when you're being completely bombed indiscriminately. You're told to go somewhere and you're told that it's a safe place, and then you get bombed on the way, or once you get there you wind up getting bombed, or I mean, it's just that's been constantly the situation. People have had to move 3 and 4, 5 times at this point, and constantly told that a place is supposed to be a safe place, and then that place is constantly being bombed, constantly being, destroyed, and people are constantly dying. Um, and it's to make the argument at this point that you are not doing this with the intent to kill people, innocent people. It I don't know I don't know how you can look at the situation and come to that conclusion anymore. You're either a fool or you're lying. That's the only way I can come to that. You're either a fool or you're just straight up lying, or you're just in that case you're just a bad person. Um, that's all it is to it. Um, and we have our government backing it, helping it, with very little pushback, um, and that's what infuriates me even more. And the reason why we've discussed in the previous videos with Biden, why he is constantly going down, and his being able to come back from this at this point is almost impossible, um, unless he does some major turnarounds. Um, so yes, all of these things going into you know killing people with intent. Certainly believe that's happened. Um, no matter how many times they say that they are doing it, they're not after. They don't mean to do. They're not attacking innocent people on purpose. They're attacking to kill Hamas. Um, and because Hamas uses the people as human shields, as they claim, um, just because Hamas is actually a um, uh, a group that has come up from the people, right? A resistance group. And yes, they are technically embedded in the people because they are part of the people. Um, they use, uh, they do use some, places as, I guess you could say headquarters, or probably just meeting places or whatever. Most of it was probably underground, though. There's like 300 miles of underground tunneling all through Gaza, all right, that they use to their advantage. And guess who put those there? Israel. Years ago, before Hamas was even a thing, they put those there. So, um, anyway, um, so, but you can't bomb those places just because you think there's some there, and that's what their biggest thing has been: just bomb, dropping the 200,000 pound bunker busting bombs to try to blow into, and damage the infrastructures of the tunnels or whatever to try to get to the mosque, and it's not happening. Um, and So you can't constantly sit there and say that that's what you're doing, especially when there's evidence of you killing and bombing places that there's been no evidence of Hamas members being there. Um, these were supposed to be safe areas, set up for people to go. So it's not, you can't make that argument anymore. Um, the other big one would be taking away living conditions. And since the very beginning of this conflict, there was a complete siege on Gaza. Because if you don't understand, Gaza is controlled by Israel. All right, they have a blockade and um, they basically control Israel. And control Gaza. The Gaza Strip is completely surrounded by wall that is heavily guarded by Israeli IDF soldiers. IDF is the military for Israel, if you don't know that. Um, and they are constant. They have all kinds of high tech security all around it. Along with all the soldiers and everything, constantly watching it, constantly controlling. They control three of the four borders: the water side edge, northern side, the eastern side, and then the southern border is controlled, or was controlled rather, up until a few weeks ago, by Egypt. Um, so anything that crossed across the border was controlled by Israel outside of the Egyptian border. But usually Egyptian worked with Israel in compliance with certain things to allow things in and out, um, or whatnot, as far as like resources and whatnot that Gaza needed or needed on a regular basis before the conflict started. Um, they control water, electricity, gas, all the main substantial conditions for life. And in the beginning of it, they did a complete siege on that, cutting out electricity, water, communications, internet, everything. And even before the conflict, they like they would give them minimal time of those resources, especially like electricity and communications and things like that. It was only so many hours a day and blah blah blah. During this conflict, it's been, I mean, like I said, they did a complete siege of it at first, and then after, I can't remember how much time, but they did start. They would let it in a little bit in, and then there's been times where they've cut it on and off, all throughout the 7 months. Um, and some places, of course, are so destroyed that there's nothing going there. Um, Infrastructure has been destroyed, so there is no, those resources are not even available. Um, and In a lot of the Gaza Strip, so it's that in itself. People are going hungry. They've been controlling um, aid trucks and stuff going in and out. Before October 7th, on average, there were about 500 trucks that went in and out across the border uh, with aid to the Gazan people. And since I think the average is somewhere around 100, but that is like at best. Um, Early on in this, there was hardly anything getting in. Then there was a period from a couple months where they were getting, I think, around the average of 100 to 150 in. Um, uh, and then here in the recent weeks, this went back down to much of nothing. Um, but the problem with that is that they were constantly the Israel has been controlling all of that coming in, and it oftentimes was blocking At some points up to 70% of the trucks coming in over silly reasons. If a truck come in and they searched it and found one little object or something that they considered could be used as some type of weapon or anything like that, then they would turn around the entire truck. No matter what it had on it, it could be 90% food, and if it found one little item on it, like a tent or something that used pipes or something that could be turned into some type of you know weapon to be used against them or something, they would turn the whole truck around instead of just removing that item. Things like that. They've been complete controls of uh, of aid and preventing aid from coming in. Um, Prevented aid to the point that the United States then turned around and started, um, when it's we were on the border of starvation and potential famine. The United States started trying to airdrop supplies in, and then it tried to create a water pier on the water edge, um, to get aid in because they didn't want to force the aid trucks, Israel to allow the aid trucks in. So it took them over 2 months to build the pier, floating pier that only lasted about a week or two or so, and now the pier is destroyed. Weather come in, pushed it out into sea, out into the water, and there were like 2 or 3 attempts to try to get it back to land by ships. Those ships wind up getting damage to them to the point that they were both of those were landed, and now the pier is pretty much sank. And I'm pretty sure it's not coming back. So that's gone. um, it's just been a complete failure all around on getting aid in to Gaza properly, and now we're basically um, at a full-on famine in Gaza, especially in the north. Um, so yes, I'm sorry. When you are constantly doing all these different things from the beginning, um, immediately, in my opinion, that is creating an issue with living conditions, to the point of destroying a group of people. They're starving. Uh, they don't have ample um, ability for health care because the hospitals are destroyed, or medicines, or things that can help with surgeries like anesthesia and stuff like that. They haven't hardly haven't for months. They haven't hardly had any of that. We've heard all the different stories of people getting amputations without anesthesia, and all kinds of stuff. Um, so I don't know. After you've seen all these things, like I said, I don't see how you can continue to look at this conflict and not consider it to be for Israel to be committing a genocide. Simple as that. Uh, so for me, all of these things wholly um, connect and present proof that Israel is committing a genocide on the Gazan people. Um, and that's what I think they are doing. And I've been thinking that for a while. I saw early on within the first few weeks, that things were going overboard quick, and I have been arguing and showing, you know, for the uh, making the arguments for them needing to stop, and for a ceasefire needing to be made, and uh, along, as you see, people all over the world, little by little, more and more and more people are seeing it, to the point that now even your mainstream medias are starting to just break apart, and divide, and The people that have been defending all along are now turning and going, you know what, damn, this is too much. I can't take it anymore. This is wrong, and something needs to stop. Um, and but we can't get um Biden to do anything. And it's just blowing my mind. I'm sitting here crazy about this. What the hell are you going to do? And then we've and then they want to everybody wants to put down people who are your protests and stuff. Want to make them out to be the bad guys, people who are protesting against the pro-Palestine protest and stuff like that on the college campuses and everything. I mean, you want to put them down and make them out to be like criminals or like members of Hamas. um and yet um and what are you going to do? I mean, and their only argument is that, well, Trump will be worse. You're not any better. Yeah, he would be worse. He would be just full on giving them everything, but you're still, yes, he is apparently he all his rhetoric here lately has shown that he is pro genocide. Everything Biden has done since day one of this conflict has shown that he is pro genocide. Our other option, closest option, is RFK. He's pro genocide. So I mean, what do you do? You know, I I completely understand anybody who um is willing to make commentary or um protest or anything against the actions being done against, whether it's against Israel's government and what they're doing, or our government and what we're doing, our government's doing. I completely understand it, and I completely understand those who say that they morally just cannot bring themselves to vote for anybody. I mean, for all of these reasons. Um, so yes, I completely agree that this is what's going on. Um, at this point, we have uh, it's reported. The latest reports are that now here recently, there's been some adjustments in numbers. They have lowered the amount of numbers that had been reported on children and women, um, because apparently, for a little while, the UN was getting their numbers um, from the government media in Gaza, instead of the health ministry in Gaza, because the health ministry was having issues. I mean, obviously, with this conflict, it's hard to figure out who is who and what's what, making identifications of those who are dead. You've got tens of thousands up underneath the rubble that cannot be identified. So it's hard to really get a accurate calculation of who is dead or not. But currently, it is assumed or approximated that there's 36,171 um, reported. Okay, so basically, um, meaning that uh, people that have been identified and those that have been reported missing or assumed under the rubble. Those that they know of. There's no telling how many amount of people that are under the rubble that they don't know of, whether they haven't been reported or or whatever the case. Um, Maybe whole families that died and there's nobody to be like, hey, I'm missing somebody, or whatever the case. There's been, out of the 36, 171, 24,686 have been identified according to IDs or whatever. Um, 40% of that are men, is at 10,006. 20% are women at 4,959. 32% are children at 7,797. So that's all dropped. Our previous numbers were that there's around 15,000 children. Um, but that was, I think, including like all children identified and not identified. So that's where they're really starting to break down, I guess, what is actually identified versus unidentified. Um, and then 8% elderly. Elderly is just combining, I guess, men and women. What 1,924. Um, that's a kind of a confusing one there for me. I don't know why they broke that down like that, but so the 24,000 identified, and then of course there's over 10,000 that are missing or under the rubble. So you add that 10,000 to 24, you get close to the 36. I think that they're just approximating. It says that there is more than 10,000, obviously. So roughly, there, I guess they had reported about 12,000, almost 12,000 more than what's been identified. Um, but yes, you have um, complete destruction, though. There's only 15 partially functioning hospitals. And I think there's only like one or two of those that are like effectively functional. Um, one in North Gaza, seven in Gaza, like Gaza City, three in Deir al Bala, three in Khan Yunis, and one in Rafah. Um, there's 21 hospitals that are completely out of service. Um, 58% of the healthcare centers are non-functional. Uh, Only 29% of the UNRWA health centers are operational. Uh, I mean, it's just all your educational stuff has been, most of that's been destroyed. Your food, your water, 60% of the infrastructure has been destroyed. Um, you have three water pipelines currently operational, only two of which at our 50%. I'm assuming the third is at less than 50%. One is completely, I think there's maybe four. No, two out of the three desolation plants are have resumed. Two out of three water desolation plants resumed operations uh, on May 25th and 26th. Uh, they there was a 2 day suspension where they were lack of fuel, so that's another issue. They're constantly running out of fuel, so they might be able to run for a few days or whatever, and then they run out of fuel for a few days, and then they're able to get back up again once they finally get some more fuel in or whatever. That's been a constant issue. The third plant is completely out of service and has been out of service since October. Um, Not to mention the amount of waste that's going on. I mean, people have to use the bathroom and everything. It's there's most places you have hundreds or even thousands of people trying to use one restroom facility or whatever. I mean, it's the conditions are unworldly. Shouldn't nobody should have to be under. Or nobody should have to deal with. This is what we're talking about. Um, so, um, like your trucks, just in the month of May, in the whole month of May, there's been 58 trucks. Well, from May 7th to May 28th, So 21 days. In 21 days, there's been 58 trucks. That's an average of what, 2 trucks a day, 2.1 trucks a day. Um, and to show a difference, the largest amount of trucks that were let in over this entire period was in the 6 day period in the beginning of the month, May 1st to May 6th. There was 213 trucks. So 213 trucks between May 1st and May 6th. That was the most that had been um, that had been let through. And then since then, only 58. Um, and those were apparently, even those trucks apparently didn't have a whole lot of resources on them, or there not a lot of resources were even taken from them, from what it looks. So it is it's dire. It's a dire situation that needs to be resolved and needs to be resolved quickly. They even say, even now, if they were to stop the conflict now and get um the amount of aid needed in there, um they the kids and people they're so um starved and malnutrition, malnourished, that there would have to be a program of slowly bringing them back up. Because when a person becomes so malnourished at a certain point, if they like start ingesting or taking in too much food too quickly, it can completely have an adverse effect. Your body will wind up shutting down again. Like it's a so you have to kind of slowly bring yourself back up. So that it had to be, even if you did get them in there, it would be a amount of time, and it would have to have some type of process where they slowly, and this is, we're talking about millions of people here, um, that you have to systematically try to, bring them back, from, malnutrition in an orderly way, or you're just going to wind up even more dying because their bodies turned around and had an opposite, a opposite effect, um, and wind up killing them anyways. I mean, it's crazy. So yes, I would like to see it stop, and I would like to see it stop immediately. I would like to see um the warrants be granted, um, and not only the two members that were warranted in Israel, but several others, along with all the ones of Hamas. I would like to see them all arrested, um, and trialed, whatever. Um, Let the system do what it do, and and they wind up behind bars. Um, they could go under the prison as far as I'm concerned. That's where they belong. Um, and uh, I mean, if this was any other place, this would already be happening. It wouldn't even have gotten this far. It wouldn't even come close to getting this far. But because it's Israel, and because the United States wholeheartedly backs them and supports them and defends them and allows them to do whatever they want with impunity, um, it's the foundation is cracking though. You've already had a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, um, three members, three Western countries, decide to um, view Palestine as a state, um, identify Palestine as a state, and you have a few other big ones. Those might be minor, but you have a few big ones. France being one, um, that is also apparently considering it. And after the events the other day, um, bombing uh, a little tent camp, solely innocent people, and France immediately come out and condemned it. I think you're gonna see that happen quick. Something's about to happen quick and major. Um, and it's gonna put a whole lot of pressure on the United States to change its um position. Um, and hopefully that pressure will also cause pressure enough for Israel to change its actions and position. Because this needs to stop. It needs to stop quickly. It needed to stop months ago. It needed to stop October the 10th. Because it's too much. And we're seeing the worst travesty ever in all of my lifetime. Um, and it needs to stop. But anyway, I will, if you like this video, um, consider subscribing, liking, comment. Let me know what you think of the whole situation. Um, do you think that they're committing a genocide? Uh, what are your reasons for believing that? If you don't, what are your reasons for not believing that? Um, what would you like to see going forward? Is the ICJ grounded in their findings? Is the ICC warranted in, you know, calling for warrants? All those things. Let me know what you think, and let's get a discussion going about it. And I will probably be trying to do a video a little bit more on the history of the whole conflict, going back, going way back. From my understanding of the history, trying to explain all the events over the past, let's just say, 100 years, um, and what got us to today, or what got us to October 7th. Um, and then I'll have other videos about other those things connecting all this. Um, and I'm gonna try to do a video also on the uh, protests and the events that happened there domestically, and also across the world. And my thoughts on that as well. So if you want to hear all those, look for those to come, and give me anything else on this conflict you would like me to talk about. Let me know in the comments. So thank you very much, and until next time, this has been Clear Talk. Peace. I'm out.